a deeper dive into your Pinterest analytics today. I have talked about Pinterest analytics in the past, what to look for, how to navigate around your analytics screens, but I've never really done a deeper dive into all of the tools available to you when it comes to looking at your Pinterest analytics and figuring out who's in your audience. Now, the goal of this tutorial video is going to show you how to find out exactly who is in your audience and what to do with that data once you figure out who's there. Now, the selfish goal behind this video is to have something to send to people when they ask me, hey, my analytics are down for Pinterest in the month of July, and I don't understand why and what's going on. Is there something happening on Pinterest? Typically, what's happening on Pinterest is more related to your audience than it is to the platform. Now, the platform does have a tendency to push updates, and as of August, they did have a reported outage. I'm filming this in August of 2024, so if you're watching this in the future, just know that that's the time frame I was talking about. But the platform does make updates. They do try new tools. They do beta test new features, and some of those things could have an impact on your analytics. But generally speaking, especially if it's a certain time of year, you really need to get to know your audience better and what exactly they're doing on the platform, but also in their lives. So when we are talking about audience drops or why your data doesn't look as good this month as it did last month, it really all comes back to your audience and figuring out who they are and how to better connect with them. And that's really what I want to walk you through today. We are doing a deep dive into Pinterest analytics, and I want to show you how to get there in case you've not done this before or used any of these tools. There's a few different tools we're going to be taking a look at today within the Pinterest ecosystem. So these are all Pinterest tools on the platform. So the very first thing that I want you to get familiar with in figuring out exactly who's in your audience is the Audience Insights tool. There's a few different ways to get to it. You can add it to your shortcuts menu like I did here, but it's also in the Analyze Performance menu here. And then you can also access it from the Analytics overview. It'll be listed in the Additional Insights screen. So if we launch Audience Insights, you can see, and it's only for the last 30 days. So anything beyond the last 30 days is going to reset and kind of be overwritten. So in the last 30 days, and you want to make sure you're on your own brand, you want to take note of the age and gender first and foremost of who is in your audience, exactly who's there. And then I want you to kind of write that information down. I would visit this, ever so often just to see if it's changing a lot. I will say in the last 30 to 60 days, my own device used by my audience has changed drastically. It used to be web was the highest, and now it's iPhone, and that's probably because I'm running a lot of ads right now. So I want you to come in here and I want you to take note of exactly who is in your audience and what is their assigned gender, or who have they assigned their gender as on Pinterest. Once you have that information, what I want you to do is now pop into your analytics overview screen. So on Pinterest, this is our main organic and ads. You can see some ad stuff in here too, but you can't see like ad spend or anything like that. What I want you to do is just look at your main organic overview. So before we get started with finding our top pins and really digging even deeper into those pins, I want you to familiarize yourself with more filters. So in more filters, obviously you have the same date range and content type over here, but you also have a date range drop down here, and you can use real-time estimates. It's going to default to that. Audience filters are going to allow you to dig even deeper in certain time frames with all the other filters allowed inside of this hub to see what age groups your content is resonating with, what gender they've assigned themselves to, what content type, so is it organic or paid and earned, what websites you want to filter in by, the source, your pins, all pins, or others, and if you want to include saved pin data, which is these are pins that you're saving from other people on the platform. All of these are default right now. So you can come in and really start filtering down. So if you have a time period in your analytics where your data just feels like it's taken a dive off of a cliff. One thing that I would suggest doing is a deep dive in that time frame of exactly who's in your audience. So your first step in your research would be audience insights, figuring out exactly what age and gender your audience is in the last 30 days, then going in and start to filter down by that age and gender filter that you found over here and seeing if that matches. If you notice in the last 30 days that you had a huge increase in another age group and your main age group from 60 days ago has taken a dive, chances are that's kind of where your leak is, right? So we're looking for patterns, but we're also looking for pattern interrupts. Oftentimes in July, I will get a lot of messages saying, oh my gosh, my traffic on Pinterest has just taken a dive and I don't know what's happening. I actually had a couple paid audits for this year, and the same thing was true for both accounts. The age group was the biggest impact. So their audience is primarily women who were people who identify as women or female, who were 25 to 49. And in those demographics, those women or those females were actually looking for other things on Pinterest or just not on Pinterest during that time. So you have to keep track of who is in your audience, who's engaging with you on Pinterest, which is why this deep dive video is going to help you to find those things. I want you to help yourself in doing this research and finding out who exactly is in the audience. That way, if your traffic does take a dive or if things really start to go viral, you can figure out who they are and how to better attract them. Okay, familiarize yourself with the filters. We're going to use the default filters for now, although we are going to toggle over to organic because I have been running ads and I think that's unfair to look at. So in the last 30 days, the pins with the most engagements are a board cover, which is quite ironic, this guest post I wrote for someone else, and then this pin about video pins, and then the last one is a pin about pin titles, the fourth example, not the last one. There's 10 there total. Really what I want you to take a look at are the pin impressions. So I want you to come in here and click See More Stats. Inside the See More Stats, I need you to come down to the bottom where it says Save to these boards and take note. Now, if you don't see any boards or saves, open up your date range. So it's going to default to the last 30 days. So open your date range up. You can see here my saves go up. So it's been saved to these boards in this time frame. These are all the boards. And what I want you to do here is just take note of how people perceive your pins. So I've got one board about video pins, and that's exactly what my pin is about. And then I have boards on Pinterest, ebooks, podcast, blog, and this one is like other like ideas and inspiration, Etsy, and SEO, and then small business, and then someone put it on a must-read board. So I can kind of get an insight into people's brains and exactly how they perceive my content by doing it this way. Write this down because this may give you new ways to target your audience as well. Now, once you kind of have an idea of how people are engaging with your pin, how they're saving your pin, what boards they're saving to, I want you to start dissecting that individual pin. So let's look at this one. This one is Pinterest Ads, a guide to getting started. It's a guest post I wrote over on Jessica Stansberry's website years ago, like 3 or 4 years ago. This pin has consistently brought me engagement and brought Jessica traffic. So, and I have never promoted this pin. This is just an organic pin only. So on the pin, what you want to do is figure out what was your main keyword. Now, the reason I want you to do that is because this could be years old and you may not remember what your main keyword is. But I want you to find out what your main keyword is because we're going to take that information and we're going to go over and do a little bit of research in the Trends tool. Now, the Trends tool is going to be in your menu under Analyze Performance or trends.pinterest.com. If it's available in your region, this is going to be a great way for you to do some additional research. Now, make sure you filter in by the region. And then what I want you to do is start to search for your topic. Now, Pinterest ads, video pins, things like that are not in this tool. They just aren't, so I'm not going to look for them. But I want to give you another example. So let's just say it's date night. I see this example here. This is a really good example. Let's say my pin is about date night beauty. Now, what I want you to pay attention to is not necessarily this graph, not right now, but what are the related topics to the one that you put in your seed search? These are other ways that people are looking for this very same thing or something similar to it, and these are additional ways that you can get found. Now, this is also something a lot of people just don't pay attention to. This section right here in the middle called demographics. This is going to tell you exactly who in this time frame we're looking at has been the most engaged with this search term. Date night beauty is the most engaged with for 25 to 34, 35 to 44. It drops down for these two age groups and then pops back up for 55 to 64. So you can see these three age groups really dominate the majority of this search term. And then the gender is heavily identified as female. 20% male and then 9% unspecified or custom. So we can start to see if the search terms we used on our Pinterest pins correlate with what we are finding in our Pinterest data. So if I were to come back over here and let's just pretend I am a beauty blogger and my top pins are about beauty, if I look at that Pinterest pin and I find that that's the main keyword I used and that is leading to my website, it's driving me traffic, it's bringing me engagement on the platform, and then I find that search term in Pinterest trends, and that data that I found inside of the more filters also matches up. It also lines up. So if we were to filter down to 25 to 34, we were to look at females. So in this time frame, like what does that data tell us inside of here? So then if you filter down into that and you see, okay, let's pretend this is that same date night pin. This pin is at the top of all of our engagements. Again, that is just further solidification that you are on the right track, that the content you are creating is resonating with the audience that is the most searching for that topic on Pinterest. So you're doing the right thing. Most people do this by mistake or accident. They don't plan for this. It's not very strategic. They just happen to use a keyword or find a keyword and use it, and it just happens to hit. I see it time and time again. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to filter in to your analytics and find out who really is in your audience. Who's the biggest segment? So if we were to do this just very quickly, 28,000 impressions for 18 to 24. Now, if I just filter through and I write all these down, 53 is going to 25 to 34, and it's probably going to start going down from there. So the biggest two segments are definitely 18 to 24 and 25 to 34. Then 35 to 44, it starts to go down. And this is what I want you to do. I just want you to go through each segment and see exactly who is in your audience. Who is engaging? Is it primarily younger people? Is it primarily older people? Is it a mix of everybody? Is it male, female, unspecified, or custom? Who is in your audience? And then I want you to match it to your top pins down here as well. Take a look at your top pins. Take a look at what keywords you were using. What topics are you creating on? And then what additional search terms do you find in the trends tool that you can add to your pins again? Now, what do you do with all this information? Well, primarily what I want you to do is I want you to track it in some sort of a Google sheet. And then once you track it, I want you to start dissecting it. So each Pinterest pin that is in your top pins section, what audience is getting the majority of those impressions, outbound clicks, saves. And then I want you to go into Pinterest trends, find that topic if you can, and identify if it matches what you are finding in your own analytics. And then I want you to take these related keywords and I want you to start using those as well. So use those in all the places that you're supposed to use keywords. I have plenty of videos on this channel that tell you exactly how to optimize your content. I will try to tag them in the description or on a playlist, but go watch those. And basically what I want you to do is I want you to use this data to make more Pinterest pins. I want you to plan your content when you will publish additional content on this. So this is where this graph comes in. More on that in a second. And then the last thing I want you to do is really take the related trends or related keyword topics and use that to diversify your search capability and getting found in search. Okay, so let's talk briefly about when to publish your content bit. I just told you I would talk more about that. So if you are looking at this graph and you're like, boy, this really only has a peak in June and it's September now, I'm past time. Like, it's too late. You are right. It is pretty flat for this particular trend, but I want you to look at some other search terms. Are there any other search terms that you could alternate for instead of date night beauty, romantic surprise, or romantic home dates? Like, how else can you position your content for your audience? So if you have a blog post on how to get ready for a date night, then do you have anything in that blog post that goes over date nights at home? Should you dress up or should you not? Date nights at a hotel or date nights on vacation. What other content can you either reposition or create in order to attract a bigger audience for that content and maybe alternate the search terms? So when I find a search term that's just pure flat, like that last one that we were looking at, date night beauty, I try to alternate it for another search term that is high during that time that we're looking at. Now, the general rule of thumb is 30 to 90 days in advance. You really want to start promoting content related to trends. So instead of promoting it when it's in its peak, you're really promoting it when it's in a valley, ahead of the peak, because you want to ride the wave. Now, given that information, given everything that I've given you today, if you have any questions about Pinterest analytics or about your Pinterest analytics, if you'd ever like an audit or additional strategy based on what you find here, I do want to invite you to come into Pimprov Academy, where we talk about this stuff in depth all the time. Now that you've done a deeper dive into the analytics on Pinterest and all the different surfaces where you can find data and validate who's in your audience and how to use it, we talked a little bit about that as well. I want to let you know that I offer more support. I obviously have mentioned that already, but I do offer more support in many different ways. So if there's ever anything I can help you with, all you have to do is reach out and I'll let you know what the best path is for you. To take your Pinterest marketing strategy even further, I will see you over here.